Welcome back. Or if you skip part one and are starting on part two, on behalf of Affordable College Prep, let me welcome you to this presentation, College 101, Part 2, Paying for College. As I mentioned at the close of the last presentation, college can be quite an expense for many people. And as such, there are various options that are available from which to pay for college. Let's start by understanding what tuition is. Tuition is money that's charged for teaching at a college or university. There are many expenses that a student will incur while at college. Tuition is generally the largest one. Students will also incur a cost for food, housing, textbooks, and travel, but uh, students and their families really have to prepare for the expense of tuition because tuition can be quite significant. Now, many of you have read or seen in the news that there are now schools that are beginning to offer free or reduced tuition to eligible students. And that's a terrific thing. But keep in mind that if you take advantage of that and you go away to college, you still have these other expenses that can really add up. Let's take a look at how much tuition will cost you on average per year at a typical school. At a private school or university, average tuition is $33,480 per year. Now, the numbers I'm going to show you are all taken from the collegeboard.org website. College Board is a not-for-profit organization that writes about and studies all things college. Great resource. At a public or state school, if you live in the state you're attending, your average cost of tuition is significantly lower now, $9,650 per year. At a public or state school, if you live out of state yet attend, it goes much higher, up to $24,930 per year. So see the difference and see the value of attending a state school within the state where you reside. And finally, at a much lower price point, is our local public two-year community college, which comes in at $3,440 for average tuition per year. Now, there are many ways with which to pay for college. One way is to simply go to the bursar's office at college and write a check or even pay with cash. But most of us really can't afford to do that. And schools and the government knows that. As such, they've come up with different funding options. The big three are grants, scholarship, and loans. And let's talk about those. First, let's look at grants. Grants are money that is provided mostly by the federal government that does not need to be paid back. So you begin your application process. The federal government and your college are going to look at things financial for you, decide your eligibility to receive grants, and then possibly offer you grant money that you need not pay back. The largest grant, as some of you might know, is the Pell Grant. This is subsidy the government provides to students who have a certain financial need. Next, we have scholarships. Scholarships are money given for various reasons that do not get paid back. Now, a common type of scholarship is a merit-based scholarship. For instance, if you have a higher GPA, if you do well in school, you may be eligible for certain types of scholarships. Please keep in mind, though, that all scholarships are not merit-based. So, as I'll discuss in a future video, there are many options besides merit scholarships that are available. So don't think if you're not an A student, you're not eligible for a scholarship. What you have to keep in mind about a scholarship is that you have to apply for it. It takes a little bit of work to complete the application, write the essay, and submit it to the scholarship committee. It is worth noting at this time, too, that grants and scholarships are not always taken advantage of. And I read somewhere that close to $2 billion a year, that's billion, is left on the table, so to speak, is out there that students do not take advantage of. So there's money there for you that you don't have to pay back, and you should really look into going after it. Now, finally, are loans. Loans, as many of you know, a loan is money that you borrow and you have to pay it back. So loans are quite common for many people, and it's the only way that many people can afford to pay the tuition from which to attend college or university. The most common type of student loan is the Stafford loan, and this was formerly known as the Federal Guaranteed Student Loan Program. The name changed in the '80s as it was named after Senator Robert Stafford from Vermont, who was a huge higher education advocate. Student loans and Stafford loans are guaranteed by the federal government, so interest rates are lower than private loans. Now, Stafford loans are the most common type of student loan, and they offer great value for many borrowers. You should keep in mind, though, they're not the only type of loan that's available. Other loans would include PLUS loans, consolidated loans, Perkins loans, and even private loans. So just putting that out there, but understand if you apply for a student loan, the most common loan that you will receive will be a Stafford loan, and it will have lower interest than private or other loans. The process of determining whether you are eligible for a student loan or a federal grant begins by filling out the FAFSA form, which is commonly found, easy to find on the web. FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So parents and students, when they're ready to begin the college journey and they need to look for ways with which to pay for college, the process begins by filling out this form. There are many requirements for eligibility, but here are three big ones. To fill out FAFSA and to be eligible for federal assistance, you must be a U.S. citizen, a U.S. national, or an eligible non-citizen. Now, students that don't have this documentation for whatever reason can still go to college. However, they are not eligible for any type of federal assistance, either loans or grants. You must have a valid Social Security number, and you must have a high school diploma or GED to start receiving this assistance. These are big three. There are many more that are there. If you study FAFSA more closely, you will learn all the requirements that are there. And finally, I want to leave you with three concepts that I think are important for every prospective college student and their families to know. The first concept is what's known as the graduation or completion rate. Graduation rate measures the percent of students that graduate or complete their degree 6 years after they have begun their degree. So the college and the government look at those students that have started their degree fall term freshman year, and the percent of those students that have satisfactorily completed their degree and graduated 6 years later. Now, understand that a typical bachelor's degree takes about 4 years to complete. However, schools and the government understand that sometimes students need a little more time to complete, so they measure it over 6 years. Currently, in the United States, the completion rate is about 60%. It's actually just under. So what this means is 4 out of 10 students that begin do not complete within 6 years. This is important to know, and it's important to know what the graduation rate is for your school. This information can be found online. You can do a search. You can find calculators for all the schools and what their graduation completion rates are. So know what it is for your school, and you should know how your school compares to the national average. Second is the concept of retention rate. Retention rate measures students that return to school in their sophomore year from their freshman year. Schools measure this rate, look at it very carefully, because it's usually an indicator that students are happy and they want to return, and they're more likely to graduate and complete their degree. Currently, retention rates are 64% at a public university and a bit higher, 70% for a private university. So here again, you can find this information online. You should look up your school, and you should see how your number compares to your school's number compares to that of the national average. Higher number is certainly better. Finally is the concept of student loan debt. In the previous slides, we were discussing the ways in which you can borrow money from the government that has to be paid back over time. You should know that on average, a student will graduate with $37,000 in debt from their undergraduate degree. $37,000. It's important for parents and students to really know this and have a conversation about how much debt they are willing to take on as part of the investment you're going to make to go to college. So it's a very important concept. Students and their families, again, really need to discuss this and be aware of this and the implications of paying a student loan back once you graduate. And incidentally, even if you don't graduate, you still have to pay back that money. So that's a very bad thing, because now you don't even have your degree and you still have to pay this money back. So that concludes my presentation. I hope you found it interesting. And please stay tuned to Affordable College Prep for more relevant and helpful information on these subjects. Thank you all.